Today I'm gonna be answering 30 of the biggest questions that I get. Let's get into it. So these were my shorts and I just made it into a long form video, so I'm working on something pretty big, so this is all I got for this week. Can I buy a good PC with $800? And he's got 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM for $100. That's a good deal. First of all, definitely possible. Of course we're gonna go AM5. Get a Ryzen 5 7600, which is a great CPU. Get a B650 motherboard, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. And then get a GPU around 4070 RX 6800. And then get some storage and a PSU. Use Linux. I think by that he meant if Linux is any good for normal users, like if it's any good. Personally, for the performance, for me it wasn't that great. I tried the difference between Windows and Linux and the difference was like maybe 5 FPS. The Linux is good for any custom OS, like Batocera, stuff like that. Today's PC question. I bought the GTX 1070 Ti, and what's the difference between the Ti and non-Ti? I don't know the exact performance of the GTX 1070 or whatever. Usually the Ti is about 10% faster. It's not any crazy other stuff. What's the difference between 16 gigabytes and 8 gigabytes of, I think, RAM? First of all, I'm gonna talk about performance. It's not a crazy improvement from, example, 8 gigabytes to 16 gigabytes. One thing RAM is good for is multitasking. For example, having your game, your Discord, browser, or wherever. And for that, you need 16 gigabytes of RAM or more. If you wanna be next, make sure to comment down below any PC question and I'll just pick a random one. AMD or Nvidia? If you're thinking of raw performance, AMD usually wins for the same price. But if you prefer nice visuals, you don't mind any upscaling, frame generation, Nvidia has really good software for that and it gives you a nice performance boost. But usually that costs some visual tearing, delay, stuff like that. So I don't know, drop your favorite in the comment. How much RAM do you need to play Minecraft at 150 FPS fully optimized? Usually I would say around 16 GB of RAM for normal user, but since you said fully optimized, I would say around 8 GB of RAM since Minecraft isn't that intensive. I have a GTX 1050 Ti, Ryzen 5 3400G and 16 GB of RAM. What should I upgrade? Usually for this type of PC I would say save up, buy a new one, but since you wanna upgrade, I'll see what I can do. Since your GPU is a bottleneck, I would upgrade the GPU to a RTX 2060 RX 6600, something like that. Can I play games with 4 GB of RAM? So right now the gaming standard is 16 GB of RAM. 8 is already pretty low, but 4 is like the lowest that you can get Windows running. Technically it is possible to play like games like Minecraft or older games, but you still need to think about the GPU and the CPU. When can we expect the SSD prices to drop? And what external SSD disk that has at least 3 terabytes of storage do you recommend? I would not recommend waiting for lower prices right now because AI companies are still buying a lot of storage. So here are my 2 recommendations for external SSD drives. First one, we got the Samsung T9 4 terabyte. Then we have the Crucial X10 Pro 4 terabytes, which is a great price to performance disk. Then we have the SanDisk Extreme Pro, I don't know, whatever, 4 terabytes. Really good for traveling and stuff like that. My DVD drive started smoking and my hard drive smells. Should I try a HDD or just buy a new one? So if it started smoking, probably get rid of it. Best thing I would recommend you to buy is just buy a new one. Buy a new SSD, HDD. I have a ThinkPad T61. Which one should I buy next? That's a pretty old laptop. First, I'm guessing you're thinking of a good laptop. I'll get at least something that has a GPU. Then, of course, 16 GB of RAM, an NVMe SSD. If you're on a budget, maybe SSD, probably not. Then, of course, a good laptop CPU. Make sure to check out YouTube videos of the laptops, reviews, stuff like that. I have a Ryzen 7 5600 and an RTX 5060 and 23 gigs of RAM. What should I upgrade? I'm assuming you mean the Ryzen 5 5600. So right now you are in a great spot. You have pretty much zero bottleneck in 1080p. And right now you can upgrade pretty much anything. It depends on what types of games you play, stuff like that. If you want to go really competitive with like Fortnite, CS, you should probably upgrade the CPU. If you play like any GPU intensive games or play at ultra high graphics and wanna maybe improve the resolution, I'd probably upgrade the GPU. I have a Ryzen 5 5600X, 5060 and 32 gigs of RAM. What should I upgrade? If you looked the specs up on bottleneck calculator, in 1440p you got pretty much zero bottleneck, which means if you wanna run 4K, you might wanna upgrade the GPU. If you wanna get higher graphics, you wanna upgrade the GPU. But if you want really nice performance in competitive titles with low settings, you might wanna upgrade the CPU. But your combo is great, you can pretty much play any game in 1440p. I have a RX 7700 XT overclocked, a Ryzen 5 5600 and 32 gigs of RAM. What should I upgrade? If you play at 1440p, I'd personally first upgrade the CPU. That will give you a lot better frames in CPU intensive games and of course more stable FPS. So your current CPU is on AM4, which means your best option right now for value would be Ryzen 7 5700X 3D, which is one of the best CPUs for your options and value. If you want to be next, comment down below any PC question. Before we get to last couple of questions, make sure to subscribe, and right now you can become a member and watch all of my long form videos earlier. And yeah, subscribe. Do you think my i7 2600K is good in 2026? So right here it very depends if you're using it just for browsing, video editing, playing games. If you're playing games, you can probably play games like Fortnite at around 60 FPS if you have a nice GPU. But it's by far not the fastest CPU in 2026. Ryzen 5 7600X 4060 6GB and 32 gigs of RAM. What should I upgrade first? If you play at 1440p and play games with higher graphics, ray tracing, stuff like that, I would upgrade the GPU first to like a 5080, 5070, something like that. Should I buy a Ryzen 7 RTX 5070 and 23 gigs of RAM for my first PC? You didn't specifically say what Ryzen 7 it is. So for example, if you're thinking of buying a pre-build, sometimes the companies sell them as Ryzen 7s and then it's just a random old generation. Other than that, it's a really nice PC. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and watch these videos that are on my screen. They're a bit different, so yeah.